Good evening and welcome. You're watching the news track. I'm Rahul Kanwal. Should content on YouTube be moderated? Should it be regulated? The Supreme Court certainly seems to think so. Many content creators, though, think this is just the government trying to come in from the back door and clamp down their freedom of speech. So, should YouTube content be regulated? That's my top focus on the news.
Beer biceps in soup. Supreme Court rains fire on obscenity. Top court calls for YouTube regulation. Surgical strike on influencers. Swach social media Yojna. Content censorship ahead. That is our top focus on Newstrack.
The Delhi top court today hit a pause button on popular YouTuber Beer Biceps, aka Ranveer Alabadia's content. Supreme Court has asked him and comedian Samay Rana to stop making videos for now. While the court granted relief to Alabadia from arrest, it had some scathing observations on Alabadia and his vulgar joke that has kicked up a storm.
Pervert mindset. Obscene remarks. Dirt in mind. Shameful. Shaming parents. This is how the top court pulled up YouTuber Ranveer Alabadia. The Supreme Court severely criticized Alabadia for making vulgar remarks on Samay Rana's India's Got Latent show, saying such obscenity should be condemned. The apex court said that the podcaster had perversion and dirt in mind, which he puked on the show. Tearing into Alabadia, the Supreme Court said parents everywhere would be ashamed by such crass comments.
सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने इनको भी अच्छी तरह से फटकारा है और कहा है कि इनके जितने भी शो हो गए वो आगे से बंद किए जाए. जो भी गंदे कंटेंट लेके शो किए, जो छोटे से रील्स के जरिए जितने भी शूट किए वो हटा दिए जाए.
And in a major blow, Supreme Court also put a pause on his podcast show, Beer Biceps, until further notice. After scathing remarks, the top court did offer him some relief after it said no to new police cases could be filed against him on this matter. Police in Maharashtra, Rajasthan and Assam were also barred from arresting Beer Biceps. Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis vowed to take action if anyone crossed the limit in vulgarity.
तुम्ही दुसऱ्याच्या अभिव्यक्ती स्वातंत्र्यावर आपल्या स्वातंत्र्याच्या माध्यमातून घाला घालू शकत नाही. त्यामुळे ज्या ठिकाणी अश्लीलता ही परिसीमेच्या बाहेर जाते त्या ठिकाणी कारवाई करणं हे गरजेचं असतं. मात्र या संदर्भात काही नियमावली तयार करता येईल का, जरूर केंद्र सरकारची आमची चर्चा चाललेली.
Will top court crack down mean trouble for YouTubers delving into dark comedy? With Nalini Sharma and Shrishti Ojha in New Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
While hearing Ranveer Alabadia's plea, the Supreme Court also called on the centre to regulate obscene content on YouTube. Should there be clearly defined restrictions? The Modi government has been working on amending the existing media laws, and the proposed broadcast bill lays a framework for YouTube content regulation as well. So should the content regulation that extends to television be extended into digital, social and YouTube too?
The India's Got Latent controversy has opened a Pandora's box that will impact how content is created and consumed in India. While granting relief to Ranveer Alabadia against arrest, the Supreme Court called on the centre to consider regulating obscene content on YouTube and other social media platforms. The top court observed that YouTubers are misusing the lack of regulation. The Supreme Court said We would be very happy if the government does something on its own to regulate online content. It is also said that it would not allow such a vacuum and barren area to persist. YouTube actively removes videos that violate its community guidelines. In 2023, over 2.25 million videos were removed in India for various violations, making it the highest number globally during that period. The Indian government has been working on amending existing media laws to exert more control over digital content. The latest version of the broadcast bill includes compliance requirements for YouTubers and other digital content creators. The proposed regulations say that creators would need to set up a content evaluation committee to review their content before publication. This committee would consist of experts who would evaluate content for compliance with community standards. Additionally, creators could face criminal liability if they fail to comply with the new regulations. YouTube creators will need to navigate a complex landscape going forward, balancing free speech and accountability in the digital age. With Nalini Sharma and Shrishti Ojha in New Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
Should YouTube content be regulated? Many would argue that against excessive vulgarity, profanity, there should be curbs. But many content creators also worry whether this is just a way for the government to try and find a backdoor entry into regulating political content as well, which oftentimes the government may not like. So how do we treat this sensibly with maturity and yet don't allow excessive profanity and vulgarity to proliferate the internet and to corrupt young minds? Joining us to talk about this, one of the country's top constitutional experts, senior advocate in the Supreme Court, and over the next several minutes I'll be joined by experts cutting across different spheres, different inclinations in terms of their political and judicial views. So I want to welcome R.M.R. Sundaram first. Thank you very much, Mr. Sundaram, for joining us. Should content on YouTube be regulated? It's a matter of a big debate. You're seeing what's playing out. The Supreme Court clearly seems to think there is a case for YouTube content to be moderated and regulated. Do you agree? R.M.R. Sundaram.
Look, first of all, let's take it in perspective. Let's take in perspective what the Supreme Court has done. It's pure and simple. A person who makes a comment and becomes a public figure and does things in public can either get accolades or brickbats for what he has said. Now, he said what he did, which I may personally feel is absolutely prudent, was absolutely objectionable, and I found it something which I would have wished something like this had not been said. Having said so, the answer, of course, was that a person like me would come out and criticize what he has done. Instead, there are various charges framed against him, many of which, according to me, do not apply, except for one, which is under 294 of the Erstwhile Act, which is any utterance of words which can be considered obscene. Unfortunately, obscenity itself is a very subjective thing. We don't know what is obscene, what is not. And it's a bit of subjective thing, although in some sections they try to give a deeming provision. It's a gray area. So that's so far as the case is concerned. Now, what came up before the Supreme Court today, basically, was this man came to court and said, there are a lot of FIRs against me. Please centralize the FIRs, number one. Number two, please protect me from arrest. And number three, let no new FIRs be filed against me on the same issue. All three of which he got from the court. But while he got it from the court, he also got a lambasting for the court for what he had said. Now, same as he quoted his view, I may lambaste him on television for what he had said. The judges were also in a public forum, and they lambasted him from that public forum. The whole difference is when I lambaste him on the television, it's a public comment on a public comment. Whereas when the judges do it, it starts getting the signs of a judicial comment. Now, that's where I'd like to draw a clear distinction. Much of what you had said is not the order of the court. about regulating the IT, doing everything else. These are observations which have come
No, but
out.
let's come to the real substance of this.
Let
One
me just
is
complete what I'm saying.
okay. Go on, sir.
Time and time again, we find a lot of observations being made from the bench. Now, many people may feel the court should not have made such observations from the bench. Maybe the judges could have said so somewhere else, but not from the bench. Others may feel the judges were hearing a case and considering whether it was obscenity or not, and whether it will fall within or not, and express their view that it was obscene. Now, that is so far as the case is concerned, and the court has not, other than verbal observations, passed any kind of directions or anything so far as IT regulation is concerned. So if you want, I'll continue on what I feel.
Let me frame the question and then you can give us your answer. I want to quote what Justice Suryakant says. There was the case of YouTubers. We're not going to leave this vacuum the way it is being misused by so-called YouTube channels. Goes on to say, and he's asking now the Attorney General and the Solicitor General to assist in addressing the vacuum, stating, if the government of India is willing to do it, we will be happy. Otherwise, we are not going to leave this vacuum. Now, this is being linked to the government, in any case, working on the broadcast bill and the plan to try and regulate YouTube content creation, which a lot of YouTubers feel is really an effort to stifle their free voice. So the two cases have now got linked, and naturally, when the government's already working on this is the perfect opportunity to go in and make that case. Do you think that is warranted? Do you think it's about time that we try and moderate and regulate, like we do on television, what goes on YouTube?
I think you've raised a very important issue. This is actually going to the root of the matter. This is a view expressed by a bench of the Supreme Court without passing any directions, but it's a view expressed by them, which tomorrow, it's a view expressed today. Tomorrow, a court hearing it may or may not continue with such view. Now, according to me, let me deal with it constitutionally. The right to freedom of speech can only be restricted as found in Article 19.2. Your right is under 19.1a, and your restriction on this right is found under 19.2. If it does not fall within 19.2, you cannot be restrained. Now, in India, unfortunately or needfully, pre-censorship has been accepted in any kind of audiovisual content. And this has been recognized by the Supreme Court more than 40 years ago. So in India, we have pre-censorship, which in many other countries like the United States, you do not. But in India, we recognize, especially under the Cinematograph Act, there is pre-censorship. Now the question is this: if there can be pre-censorship on a cinematographic film, the YouTube is also a visual. So the next question which will be asked is, can there not be pre-censorship even so far as content on the YouTube is concerned? Which is where we have to draw a very, very thin line. And that is this, that pre-censorship where vulgarity, obscenity in cinematograph films is allowed. Not where opinions, where views, or even if you say the most unpopular thing, even if you advocate something which the Constitution protects, because there was a famous case of Rangarajan versus Jagshivan Ram, where the film was anti-reservation. And in fact went to the extent of saying, these are laws made with flaws. And when the Madras High Court banned it, the Supreme Court reversed it and says freedom is for the thought that we hate, not for the thought that we cherish. And said that that kind of censorship was not permitted. Now, if YouTube content is sought to be censored, I believe that is a very difficult space to go. Because a cinematograph film is something very easy to censor. You see the content, see if something is vulgar or obscene, and you direct the cutting of that. But in a YouTube, unless it's a matter of vulgarity or obscenity, visual obscenity or vulgarity, I cannot see how it can be actually censored. Secondly,
What about regulation? So this is pre-censorship.
censorship has to be done by the state, not by the court.
Sure.
So the court saying that you should bring in some guidelines is going back to the Vishaka principle, where guidelines are meant to be laid down. If there are no guidelines, that vacuum can be filled. So the court is basically saying you need to lay down certain guidelines, but till that you need to lay down a law. Till then, we will bring in guidelines. Thus far, all right. But the question is, can the government itself censor speech unless it falls strictly within 19.2? If the government cannot do so, the court also cannot do so by guidelines. So the court cannot do something by guidelines. Any kind of restraint which is not found in 19.2. So at best, the court could say that you must have pre-censorship of cinematograph material which comes out on a YouTube because of vulgarity, obscenity, because that's already something which can be done. But to say you must watch what is coming out, you cannot do so unless 19.2 is attracted there. The material must be against public order. Material must be against the integrity of India. The material must be against the sovereignty of India. Material must be something highly defamatory of a nature, which anyway YouTube does. When something is found to be defamatory, there's a mechanism by which it is taken down. So I believe when the court is saying lay down this, what the court says is, to the extent the Constitution permits, if that is not done, till it is done, we will lay down the guidelines.
Sure.
Whether that actually be done is a different thing, but that is the way I understand what the court would mean. But they cannot lay down any rules curbing free speech unless it falls within 19.2 of the Constitution.
R.M. Sundram for taking out time and joining
Neither
us
the government nor the court can do it.
with your views. Thank you very much. That's R.M. Sundram. I want to listen now to the president of the Supreme Court Bar Association, former Additional Solicitor General, one of India's top advocates. Vikas Singh now joins us on this broadcast. We heard a very nuanced argument by R.M. Sundram, your senior colleague on the bar. He's basically making the point that you can't perforce just find some way of clamping down on unfavorable opinion just because there are those in governments who may not like it. You can, of course, clamp down on vulgarity and profanity, and you can have some norms around that. The question that was asked of the government by the Supreme Court was that should content on YouTube be regulated? On this issue, where do you come out? Vikas Singh.
Well, as far as content on YouTube is concerned, today it is completely unregulated. And the result is that it is impossible even in households to stop access to YouTube to even children, because anybody can just log into YouTube and see whatever is available on the platform. So there definitely is a need to control the content on YouTube, and whether it will be done, whether it can be done, whether the technology is there to do it or not is, of course,
No, but many content creators fear that this is just the government trying to find a way of clamping down on free speech. There's a lot of content on YouTube which is unpopular from the political lens, which the powers that be may not like. So far, they haven't been able to curb that. The concern is that this could be a backdoor way of getting that job done.
So, according to me, the curb on the content can only be if it is bordering on criminality and not otherwise. And if you ask me what has happened in this case, this is a case of humor. And the only section which he has been charged of is, which I think can remotely apply, Section 294 of the BNS. And because 294 talks of obscenity and vulgarity. But when you look at humor, and this is something global, the threshold of vulgarity while exhibiting humor or while trying to make a humorous show is much higher than the threshold that you will apply to a sort of a political speech or a serious speech that is given on any platform.
No, so on this question, because the government is trying to come out with a broadcast bill, content creators are trying to oppose it. Do you think this is the right opportunity for the government to try and push that through?
So, according to me, only when the content is, of such an intent which can be said to be committing a particular crime under the BNS.
No, according to you, did this beer biceps fellow commit a crime or not?
Yes, so if it is not so, then it can't be, because I remember a very famous US case which said that because US also had the First Amendment, there also they brought in gave free speech a much wider ambit. So they said in that Supreme Court judgment that even if there is an obnoxious branch in free speech, the obnoxious branch should be allowed to grow rather than, to trim it. And that is what free speech is all about. And in fact, I remember when I had done that case for Vinod.
No, so let me bring you to this case. Do you think Ranveer Alabadia committed a crime? Do you think on obscenity action needs to be taken against him? Or do you think this is just everybody going overboard?
I think it is not a crime. It is definitely something which can't be said to be, can be justified as to your sensibilities, or it can definitely be said to be vulgar. It can also be said to be, something which you would not want families to see.
Sure.
But at the same time, it can't be said to be a crime. You will recall Amar Singh Chamkila, who was murdered in Punjab. He also used to crack all kinds of jokes, which were definitely vulgar, and the society found it to be vulgar, and he lost his life because of that. He was ultimately killed for that. But he was also not accused of any crime even in those days. So according to me, this kind of, broad-mindedness, Lakshman cartoon have been quite critical of what politicians do. And this is quite so many years back it started. But it was never considered to be a crime.
Okay.
According to me, dealing with humor, the threshold has to be much higher.
You can be offended and disgusted by his comments without thinking of this as a crime, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you go and use that opportunity to come down on political free speech. Vikas Singh, for joining us with your thoughts. Thank you very much, sir. So we've heard from two advocates. I want to go across now to senior advocate in the Supreme Court, Sanjay Hegde. He joins us on this broadcast. Mr. Hegde, thank you for taking our time. I've heard from Arema Sundaram. I've heard what Vikas Singh had to say, and I'm curious to know, as I also introduce other panelists joining us soon after, I have Kushal Verma. He's a host, podcaster. We have Anish Gawande, spokesperson of the NCP of Sharad Pawar, and I have Rahul Ishwar, who has been pushing hard against what Ranveer Alabadia said. So Sanjay Hegde first. Mr. Hegde, because the question is very simple. Can this then be an opportunity to push the broadcast bill through? Because so far the broadcast bill came in, it received a very strong pushback, saying that this is the government trying to clamp down on social, digital, free speech. Now the Supreme Court has created an opening, saying that you can't have this vacuum, and it's true, you can't have all kinds of rubbish and profanity and vulgarity of the kind that YouTube has been full of. So then, should YouTube content be regulated, and if so, how? Sanjay Hegde.
I don't think YouTube content can be regulated in India.
Why not?
Are you going to create a walled garden saying that you will have a special YouTube for India? Because YouTube has all kinds of content from all over the world.
No, but you can take down whatever is offensive and violative of whatever the broadcast bill says, if that's the decision that is ultimately taken. That's the question.
No, even if your broadcast bill comes through, can you ask YouTube to take down content which is foreign in origin? Then you are creating a walled garden within India. People may not watch Ranveer Alabadia. They'll go on to Joe Rogan, or they will go on to some other podcaster.
No, so that's as far as international content is concerned. What about content created within our walled garden?
So that's the point. Are you going to create a walled garden within India? Then you are effectively barricading your internet. And that's not a good thing. You started in terms of YouTube and humor and vulgarity. But what you are then going for is a much wider thing of shutting the internet off, or only allowing access of certain parts of the internet to India.
No, but some of these YouTubers have run amok, and you can't have all this kind of filth and profanities and abuses and vulgarity going online. That's not right either. There has to be some restriction. I agree with the point that you don't want to hound those making unpopular political comments, but you can't have this level of vulgarity going on. And this is hardly the most offensive thing that's been said.
If you don't like it, don't watch it. Sure. If you don't want your kids to watch it, then there are technical solutions within your mobile phones, within your devices. You can do it at your level. But tell the people at large that this is what you will watch and this is not what you will watch is to bring in a nanny state. The nanny state will
No, but there
take
are
over.
regulations on television, for example. If all of it is consumed on the phone and on screens, YouTube as well, and TV, why is it that you have content regulation on one medium and not on the other? There's content regulation on radio, television, print. YouTube is free for all.
Yes, but because it's the nature of the technology. As far as the internet is concerned, the internet has worked on the principle that everything is accessible to everyone, except in countries like North Korea and some parts of China with regard to the internet, where portions of the internet are blocked for their citizens. Are we going down that route? Then that's a different thing altogether.
No, but you look at it as a binary. Why should it be a binary, Sanjay Hegde? Why is it the extreme of North Korea versus a free-for-all, do what you please, abuse who you will?
It's not a binary. I simply put it to you that he who says nothing stupid will say nothing profound. If your approach is to let the marketplace of ideas have free reign, then necessarily you will have good and bad content. You will have the Indian citizen should be broad-minded enough to figure out what is good content for himself.
No, but the same holds true for radio, the same holds true for books, it holds true for print, it holds true for television. If there are reasonable restrictions on all the other medium, why should one medium be free for all?
One, I answered, it was the nature of the technology. As far as television is concerned, again.
No, but I don't agree with the nature of the technology argument because anything can be printed. Anything can be printed. It's what's to do with the technology, Sanjay Hegde?
No, let me add further. Even television or books for that matter are no more legislatable technologically, because you will see the same stuff that you see on television, on YouTube, on the internet in various forms through apps. Similarly, with books, you have PDFs all over. So please get out of your old 19th century, early 20th century mindset and move in to a world where you cannot have walled gardens on the internet. That's one. The second thing is, conceptually, I am opposed to a nanny state. The state cannot tell me what to read, what to think, why, and how much to consume and not to consume. Yes, children need to be protected, but there is technology on the devices themselves. That is for parental control, and that can be done.
Okay, Sanjay Hegde, for joining us, thank you very much. I want to throw open this debate now. Rahul Ishwar has been gunning for Ranveer Alabadia and the kind of humor that's going around. We have Kushal Mehra joining us. He's a podcaster, and I have Anish Gawande from the NCP. Let me go across to Rahul Ishwar first, because you know, the fear that a lot of content creators have is that so far they've been able to say and do what they want, and the fact is that during the Lok Sabha elections, for example, YouTube content became one of the principal forms of opposition against the ruling BJP. That this could be used as an opportunity, this hearing in the Supreme Court could be used as an opportunity to try and clamp down on free speech on YouTube. Why then are you of the view that Ranveer Alabadia has committed a crime and action needs to be taken against him? Rahul Ishwar.
Rahul Kanwalji, two submissions. First of all, the twin sister of liberty is responsibility. The twin brother of creativity is sensitivity. There is no liberty and creativity without responsibility and sensitivity. We are living under a false illusion that there is absolute free speech. No, there is only responsible free speech. Hate speech, perversion should be filtered out, should be blocked. That's a responsibility of the society. Second, I am a Hindu right-wing activist. I lean towards the right-wing spectrum that Ranveer Alabadia is also leaning to. But the larger point is, beyond politics, we all value family ethics, family values. There are some sacred things that we should not cross the Lakshmana Rekha with. One is family, one is faith. Rahul Kanwalji may remember, I was the first person to file complaint against Sadhvi Prachi for her absolutely irritating anti-Muslim comments, Islamophobic comments saying that we need a Muslim Mukh Bharat. I filed an FIR, sent it to UP Election Commission. made sure that she was not allowed to campaign. I'm a Hindu right-wing activist too. There are some decencies that we all have to maintain. Sanjay sir is a very senior advocate, we all respect. But at the same point of time, this is the issue with the liberals. Many times they close their eyes and they believe that some realities are not there. See, nobody is saying that, no, I am not the Aloknath kind of sanskari. I am not the holier than thou kind of a person. See, but we are all modern. We understand. But I have two kids in my home. My elder son wants to be a YouTuber. I don't want him to see these kind of content and get influenced. And when they grow up, they shouldn't be seeing this perversion. And YouTube has community guidelines. Facebook has community guidelines. Instagram has community guidelines. But shouldn't India have some kind of a community guideline? We cannot live in anarchy. See,
Okay.
these are two.
So those are important points. I'm going to get Kushal Mehra to respond. We can't have anarchy. It cannot be free for all. There must be some national community guidelines, and that's reasonable. Some of the, and the thing is that this is not even the worst of what this character or others like him have said. Some of the content is really wild. Now, the one is that let them say what they want. Let whoever wants to watch it, watch it. That's the argument that was made by Sanjay Hegde. However, Rahul Ishwar's argument is no, he's not comfortable with his children, his family watching this, and there should be some national community guidelines.
But there are guidelines. There are guidelines. I'm actually kind of appalled that nobody seems to know how the internet works. If you put on an OTT app, I'm just using an OTT as an example, Rahul, you would see different profile names, right? And it's there is a classification for kids. Those profiles are existent on YouTube too. For example, I don't even swear, or maybe not even 0.5% of my podcast would have any swear word by my guest, but I by default mark every single product of mine that I put online as 18 plus, because I just, and the moment when you log into your YouTube channel account, if you're not 18 plus, you can't access my podcast. It's as simple as that. And there are multiple other guidelines that can be done. Rahul, we are making a classic mistake over here where I think bad parenting has been confused with something else. I think it's a classic case of bad parenting where parents have outsourced the raising of their children to devices, and now they want the state to manage the device instead of them managing the device. This is a classic case where I am a bad parent, for example, hypothetical parent here, and I am like, I don't need to waste my time doing all these things. So how about I give powers to the state?
Let Rahul Ishwar respond to that argument. You do your job as a parent. You guide what your children can do. You put the right age controls. Why do you want the nanny state to do this for you?
Please remember, state is a parent state. Nanny state is a purposeful derogatory term to say that state should not have any kind of ethics. State does have ethics, and we have even learned from very earlier class that family is the basic unit of society. There are some values, some decency that we have to keep. Perversion, child pornography, rape tube, these things are not acceptable in the
No, but
name of
those are
safety.
part of YouTube's community guidelines already.
Exactly. Similarly, national
So why
guidelines.
then do you want extra guidelines?
We want extra guidelines because the internet is proliferating at a very fast rate and people are content, especially young people are consuming content. Better checks and balances will be good for our society, and government should bring in regulation and not restriction. Government should bring in regulation, some kind of monitoring, so that and there should also be checks and balances or checks and balances too.
No, but given the fact that there are millions of minutes of video being created every week, who's going to sit and monitor? That's like, monitoring television channels or the newspaper is bad enough. Who's going to sit and watch all these videos which go on sometimes for 3, 4 hours?
That's the reason why we need laws with teeth, so that if somebody is raising a complaint, the police is empowered to take some sections, or courts can deal with such sections.
No, but let's assume that Kushal Mehra says something in his podcast which you don't agree with, and you file a complaint, you want laws with teeth, you'll have Kushal jailed.
See, it is not about sending somebody to jail. It is somebody of creating an example. Nobody wants Ranveer to be in jail, but we all want Ranveer to learn a lesson. That's the reason why he himself said,
let Kushal respond to this. You make one fellow an example, it has a chilling effect, and everybody says, okay, that guy got into trouble, let's not overdo it. Let's pull back on some of the crassness of our humor, and let's try and just be more sober.
Okay, Rahul, I'm just going to use historical examples. Prohibition beyond a point. See, everything in life has a Laffer's curve in terms of effectivity is concerned. I'm using the analogy of the Laffer's curve to explain to people that taxation also works where a little too much tax or a little no tax situation. Taxation also has a sweet spot. Censorship also has to have a sweet spot. I can guarantee you, let's say Actually, Sanjay Hegde was right. You either create a North Korea or a China-like situation in India, or you have to deal with this. Because
No, but why
Rahul,
take it to the extremity of a binary? It's not
Rahul,
text.
because I
It's not an
think
either
people
or.
don't understand how the internet works, Rahul. I think we're being naive here. I want to be as respectful as possible, but this is the naivete of the Indian internet user that think they can control the. Now look at this entire controversy, Rahul. India's Got Latent was behind a paywall. Everybody could not watch it, right? It was behind a paywall, marked 18 and above, behind everything. Guess what was not behind the paywall even right now? Kill Tony, which India Got Latent, is a copy of, and Kill Tony is way more edgy than India's Got Latent can ever be. What are you going to do? Jail the American? Tony Hinchcliffe? What are we going to do?
That's an
Rahul?
important point. Let me
Control.
put that question as Anish listens on. I want to go across to Rahul Ishwar because that's an important argument that there is content internationally which may be way more offensive or way more edgy, describe it whichever way you will, than the content being produced inside India. What are you going to do about that, Rahul Ishwar?
Rahulji, there is always a middle ground possible. It is not between North Korea and an absolute anarchy. See, nobody
No, but take this specific example of a show which is highly abusive, but the show is an international show. It's available on YouTube. What will you do?
I mean, if somebody is raising a complaint, government should be empowered enough to take an action. For example, what happens if somebody is airing anti-national content? What happens if somebody is airing how to create bombs? See, the issues with the pseudo-liberals is they think they are the only intelligent people. Whereas, please understand, we are all responsible and we know how to deal with things. And if you are crossing the line, we will come with a case for you. Please remember.
Okay,
And you can
Kushal
laugh all
Mehra
the
wants
time
to
you
respond
want,
and then I
but
promise
you
to
will
go to
know what
Anish.
will
Kushal, he's looking very agitated.
All I have understood is, I have been as respectful as I can to Rahul. Rahul seems to be taking offense on behalf of the whole world. Rahul, I just want to let you know, all this pseudo-liberal ad hominem, you might get away with this on television studios, but you only sound silly, Rahul. Please,
Sir,
if you can give a rational argument,
and please remember, you can have your smirk and kind of disrespect all you have. I didn't do that. You pseudo-liberals can do that. But try something like Ranveer and we will see you in court.
Rahul, again, you will see me in court if I do something. But the point is...
You try something like Ranveer Lahalabadia, we will see. See, the point is, this is the issue. They don't understand the sensitivity of the people. They don't know to respect family values. And they think they have all the knowledge in the world. What in the world, sir, you have? See, this kind of extreme liberal arguments are bad for any society for that matter.
Okay, Rahul Ishwar, you made your argument. Let Kushal Mehra respond.
Yeah, see, this is why I don't do TV, because people don't talk over each other. It's as simple as that. I actually personally don't agree with Ranveer Alabadia. I'm someone who actually would follow the Rahul Ishwar route. I'm actually very much into family values and all of that. But my thing is simple. I'm nobody to tell Ranveer Alabadia what he's supposed to do with his life.
Yeah.
That's my point. Why? Because I don't want the government to be powerful. And I'll explain it with an example. Today, maybe, I've never hidden, I'm a BJP voter, right? Maybe the BJP may not be nasty to me. Tomorrow the Congress comes to power. I don't want any government to have any kind of power to use it against people they don't like. The moment and the day people in this country will realize that you should not give the state so much power, Rahul, they can do it to you too. And Rahul, I wanted to address the thing that you were saying that, radio has to follow guidelines, TV has to follow guidelines, everybody has to follow guidelines. Rahul, even the internet has guidelines. It's not that the internet doesn't have guidelines. Rahul, do you think Indian laws don't apply to the internet? They do apply to the internet, right? But unfortunately, the technology is such that we've not adjusted ourselves to the new reality. Now, I personally do believe in family values. You know what I do when I see all these things? I don't consume them. I don't consume Indian comedy. I don't consume most of these things. So what are you going to do?
Anish, I want to go across to Anish Gawande from the NCP. Where do you come out on this, Anish? We're having a raging debate in the studio about whether YouTube content should be regulated or not. Anish?
I think I've listened patiently and Rahul, I've listened patiently and realized only one thing, that we're trying to find 18th century solutions to 21st century problems, right? The reality is that as much as we would like to, we cannot censor the internet. The last time the government tried, they got to page 10 of Google search results and then gave up because some Sarkari Babu was in charge of this entire process. Now let's see the precedent for this, right? Look at where section 67 of the IT Act has been used. It's been used against Munawar Farooqi, it's been used against Asim Trivedi, it's been used against Umesh Khare, the rapper. You know where it hasn't been used? Against the Salibai case, where there were people being auctioned off online, Muslim women being auctioned off online. You know where it hasn't been used? In cases of child pornography, where the Karnataka High Court was forced to reverse its own order. You know, Ranveer ek bahana hai, broadcasting bill lana hai. The government wants this power to be able to censor content online that they don't agree with. This is power being placed in the hands of a government that has shown no capability or no ability actually to censor on moral grounds. It has only
Let
shown the
Rahul
ability to
Ishwar
censor on
respond to
political
this.
grounds.
Those who
So
like
all of
this
these great
government
arguments
will
being
not
told
get
us-
into trouble. Those who don't like this government and take positions which the BJP may be opposed to, they're the ones who end up in jail. Anish Gawande is citing
See,
past
Rahul-
precedent to predict what may
Rahul
happen
Ka-
in the future.
See, Rahul Kanwalji, without politics, every government may be prone to misuse. That's the reason why courts will be there. As I earlier said, I filed a case against Satya Prachi and made sure that she was not able to campaign because she has crossed the line. See, Indian laws should apply. I agree with Mehraji. Indian law, IT Act 67 is there, 67A is there, BNS 296 is there. So shouldn't these apply to online platforms too? All we are saying is we
No,
need
but
to
Rahulji,
create a
who
moderate
applies
middle
this?
ground. And that moderate middle ground, we can debate where to draw the line.
He's saying don't treat
Some
it as
line
a
should be there.
binary, look for a moderate middle ground. Anish.
No, but even today the Supreme Court has said that this is obscene content but not told me why this content is obscene. These laws are kept purposefully vague. Even the new broadcasting bill, a draft of which we've only seen a few months ago, says that anything that harms public interest can be banned with a fine of 50 lakhs for the first time and 2.5 crores for the second offense within 3 years. Now this Lakshman Rekha is going to be drawn by the same people who are morally policing us and do not have the ability to police their own members. You know, for
Anish,
all
one
of the
submission.
moral outrage that has been generated by the party in power over the last few years, you know, the reality is that in 3 states, Karnataka, then Gujarat, then more recently Tripura, MLAs were caught watching porn in the assembly. What happened to them? Which party were they from? Has
Anish,
one of
just
them not
one
been promoted to
submission.
deputy chief minister before the government fell? So this
this
moral
is-
outrage is silly. And when the court itself does not give me any reason, it makes me scared that the court will then be in the hands of anybody who is going to raise outrage.
Rahul
You're
Ishwar,
going to
respond
find
to what you're hearing from Anish Gawande.
Anish, he has sought
How many
recommendation.
people
See,
can
please
afford?
remember,
How many people can afford to
Okay,
go to the Supreme
Anish,
Court?
you've spoken. Let
Yeah,
Rahul
Anish,
Ishwar respond.
just one submission. See, obscene is very tough to pinpoint and define, but we all know obscene when you see it. For example, cracking sex jokes with parents, or what Ranbir said. You can ask me what is the obscenity in it. He is he not having the freedom to do it? Why can't he speak about that? He's not speaking about your parents. You can create a lot of justification. See, you can rightly question Modi ji's government. You know, that's up to them to answer. But we need such parameters. We cannot live in any kind of anarchy. The arguments you use against law can be used against any law for that matter. That's the reason why some kind of check and balance where the society can decide, medias, courts can decide. If somebody is misusing it, courts can definitely step in. See, for example, Subair, the things were misused against Subair. So there was a check and balance coming from the court. So it can be, the misuse should be
No,
prevented.
but check and
But does
balance
that
took a
mean-
lot of time. The guy was hounded for a very long time, Rahul Ishwar.
That's true.
No, but-
That's true. That's very unfortunate. That's true. Me being a right winger has no shame in admitting that people like Subair, even though I disagree with him vehemently, should not be hounded. You know, he's a fact checker. I may disagree with his positions. This is the reason why. See, you cannot have fear of people misusing a law and not having a law at all. Anarchy is never the solution. So enlightened and reasonable regulations should be there. And
Enlightened regulations. That's what he's asking for. Kushal Mehra, I'm running out of time. I'm going to give you a last word.
Enlightened
Rahul Ishwar
regulations.
sounds like the
Enlightened
rebirth of
regulations.
Jawaharlal Nehru,
Camera
where he
man.
added the reasonable restrictions in the entire first amendment. I think Rahul Ishwar is the representation of Jawaharlal Nehru
Okay.
now, because it was.
Yeah, go on, Kushal.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you cannot monitor this. Best of luck. Anybody who gets 1 million plus subscribers, all you're telling them is get an O1 visa, go to America, change the bank account, keep creating content, make more money. Best of luck.
try anti-Semitism there. They will know the feel of it. They will know the power
No,
of
but
it.
this is a real problem. A lot of these YouTubers move to Germany and elsewhere and can do the same content and earn in dollars or pounds or euros. which is more than what you'd get for
Rahul, we
ECPMs
lose
in-
GST.
Will they be able to promote
we
Nazism?
lose GST.
Will they be
lose
able?
GST.
Will they be able to promote Nazism? They should not be. Nazis are evil. Will they try anything anti-Semitic? They too have regulations. So similarly,
Rahul,
some
Ishwar, you
regulations
don't
should be there
understand the
everywhere.
United States of America. You should go
I
and
do,
check
sir.
the
I
content
frequent
of
there.
Candace Owens. Candace
I
Owens
frequent
actively
there.
promotes it. Candace
So
Owens
there are
actively
regulations
promotes.
to it.
There are no regulations in America.
There
It's just
are,
that
sir. That's the
you're
reason why
unaware.
Proud Boys were in jail for a long period of time. See, let's be realistic about it. It's not a free-for-all. It is not anarchy. There are
Rahul,
reasonable
it's just
anywhere
that
in
you
the world.
want to be the guy with the hammer, and that's the reality. It's just
I
that
want
you're
court
not
to be
getting
the person with
right
the hammer.
now.
The court should be the person with the hammer, and we should follow the rule of the law set by the courts. That's the way.
Okay, so all sides have spoken. This is deeply contentious. I won't tell you what I think,
No,
but I
but
leave it to you, our viewers, to decide where you come out on whether the issue of content on YouTube should be regulated and moderated or not. Are we heading too much in the direction of a free-for-all? Should there be a certain restraint? Should there be regulation? You've heard different points of view, from lawyers to content creators to influencers. You've heard them all on the news track. You decide where you stand. Thank you for tuning in. I want to thank my guests as well. Is Tesla set to drive into India? There's big buzz after Tesla posted multiple job openings for a variety of roles in India. For years, Elon Musk's plans to come to India have hit roadblocks, either because of high import tariffs or because he cancelled his meetings at the last minute. Will things be different this time round?
It was just 5 days ago that Tesla CEO Elon Musk met Prime Minister Narendra Modi at Washington, D.C. There were no customary comments from the world's richest man after the meeting. But it's now clear that Donald Trump's influencer-in-chief has rubbed some of his magic on PM Modi. 9 years after it first planned to drive into India with the Tesla 3 model, the electric vehicle pioneer has rekindled its India dreams by advertising for 13 job positions in Mumbai. The positions include that of a store manager to oversee Tesla showroom, service technicians for maintenance and repair services, sales representatives to boost sales, software engineers for local tech support, and development and charging infrastructure specialists to enhance the EV charging network across India. This apparent approval for Tesla, both for vehicles and possibly satellites, marks a significant policy shift, reflecting a strategic move to attract high-tech industries, fostering an ecosystem where Tesla could potentially set up manufacturing, leveraging the incentives offered for substantial investment. Tesla's latest effort to crack the Indian market have been fueled by the proposal to reduce import duties in Budget 2025. Tesla could also leverage the scheme to promote manufacturing of electric passenger cars in India policy, where companies investing over 4,150 crore rupees can benefit from reduced duties and taxes. The policy also encourages companies to slowly increase local production. Meanwhile, Tesla's drive into India has not been smooth. It first expressed interest in the Indian market in 2016 and even began bookings for the Model 3. But the plans were scrapped in the face of high duty and infrastructure issues. In 2019, Tesla again began talks which fell flat again. There was progress in 2021 when Tesla registered its subsidiary in Bengaluru. But a year later, talks failed when Tesla failed to import duty concessions. It was only after a meeting between Elon Musk and Prime Minister Modi in June 2023 that Tesla began to revive its plans. Last year in January came reports that the company was considering a $30 billion investment in India over 5 years to develop a new, cheaper car model for developing countries. And with the latest meeting between the two, seemingly opening the door for Tesla in India. Parallel to his automotive pursuits, Elon Musk has been pushing for his satellite internet Starlink in India. He, however, faces tough resistance due to the spectrum allocation issues. However, recent policy adjustments hint at an administrative approach potentially easing Starlink's possible entry. Meanwhile, there is speculation that Musk's entry into the country may also help India in its case against reciprocal tariff announced by the United States of America. Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
This is where I wrap up the news track tonight. For your time and your trust, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you at 8 p.m. tomorrow evening. Till then, from all of us here,